Hello everyone, friends, this is part 3, support me with a like and a comment, have a nice day. I didn't need anyone to define me. I had already found my strength. Life began to feel like a series of steps, each one leading me further away from the pain of the past and closer to a more balanced, fulfilling future. Sam was thriving. I watched as he grew more confident, his little victories at school, his shy smile whenever he learned something new, and the quiet pride in his eyes when I praised him for his efforts. I made sure to show him that I was his constant, his rock. Every step I took to better myself was also a step I took for him. I started focusing on the little things, his happiness, my peace, and the new life we were building together. As a parent, I wasn't perfect, but I was doing the best I could. I felt more present, more grounded, and more committed to providing Sam with the kind of love and stability he deserved. And then, there was the matter of my own healing. There were days when the old doubts crept back in, when I questioned whether I had truly moved on from everything that happened with Jessica. The echoes of her criticisms would sometimes resurface, and I'd feel that familiar pang of insecurity. But I learned to meet those moments with kindness, reminding myself how far I'd come. I no longer needed external validation to feel whole. I was enough. I enrolled in therapy. At first, I resisted. After all, I had been through a lot on my own already. But with time, I began to realize how beneficial it was to have a neutral space where I could process everything. The therapist helped me untangle the knots in my mind, the assumptions I'd carried for years. We worked through the things I had suppressed, my fear of failure, my need for approval, and the unhealthy patterns I'd allowed to take root in my past relationship. I learned how to set boundaries, how to say no without feeling guilty, and most importantly, how to forgive myself. It wasn't a fast process, but little by little, I began to understand that the scars from my past didn't define me. They were simply part of my story. A few months after everything started to settle, I ran into an old friend from college, Emma, at the grocery store. She was the kind of person who radiated positivity and kindness, someone I'd lost touch with after Jessica and I had started dating. We had shared a few laughs back in the day, and I had always appreciated Emma's ability to make me feel comfortable and understood. "Richard," she said, her eyes widening in surprise as she recognized me across the aisle. "I can't believe it's you." I smiled, feeling a genuine warmth at the sight of her. "Emma, wow. It's been a long time." We caught up quickly, chatting about life and the years that had passed. Emma was in a stable, loving relationship and had recently started a small business. She had always been driven and had a natural ability to create meaningful connections with people. After a few minutes, she invited me to join her for coffee, and I found myself agreeing without hesitation. Over coffee, we spoke about our lives. I told her about the divorce, the struggles I had gone through, and how things were finally starting to feel like they were in a better place. Emma listened with genuine interest, offering understanding without judgment. There was a softness to her that was rare, and it felt good to talk to someone who didn't know the messy details of my past but still saw me for who I was in the present. As we talked, I began to realize that the connection I shared with Emma wasn't just a friendly one, it was the first real step I'd taken toward opening myself up again. "I've missed talking to you, Emma," I admitted, my voice quiet. "I think I've been so focused on everything else that I forgot what it's like to have good conversations with people." She smiled warmly. "Life has a funny way of making us forget what really matters. I'm glad we ran into each other." We began to meet up regularly, nothing serious, just two people reconnecting over shared experiences. And as the weeks went by, I began to realize that Emma made me feel comfortable in a way that felt natural and effortless. But even so, I didn't rush into anything. I was still healing. Still figuring out who I was outside of my past relationship. I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. But it was nice to have someone like Emma in my life again. Over the next year, Sam and I settled into a routine that felt right for us. We went on family outings, shared more meaningful moments, and laughed more than I thought possible. I became more involved in his school activities, attending parent-teacher meetings and helping him with his homework. The more I focused on him, the more I realized how much I'd been missing before. But there was another part of me that needed nurturing, my own happiness. I began taking classes, not just to further my career but to rediscover passions I had forgotten about. I enrolled in a writing course, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. As I began putting words to paper, I found my creative voice once again. Writing became my therapy. It was the best way I could work through my emotions and understand my journey. Gradually, I became more at ease with the idea of opening myself up to new possibilities. Emma and I began dating casually, taking things slow, just as I needed. With her, I didn't feel rushed or pressured. She respected my space, and I respected hers. We were both in different places in life, but there was something undeniable about the way we fit together. But the most important change came when I realized that I didn't need anyone to complete me. I was finally at a place where I was whole on my own. The relationship I had with Sam was stronger than ever. We laughed more, shared more, and understood each other on a deeper level. I realized that everything I'd gone through had brought me to this place of clarity, peace, happiness, and self-acceptance. I no longer feared the future. I no longer needed to fix anything. The journey had taught me that true healing came from within. One evening, Sam and I sat on the front porch, watching the sun set in the sky. He looked up at me with his big, curious eyes and asked, "Dad, do you think things will always be like this?" I smiled, resting my arm around his shoulders. "I don't know, buddy. But I do know this, we'll always be okay, as long as we have each other." And in that moment, I realized that the true meaning of love wasn't in grand gestures or sweeping romances. It was in the quiet, everyday moments that we shared with those we cared about most. It was in the way we supported each other, how we grew together, and how we never gave up on the things that mattered. As time passed, my relationship with Emma continued to deepen. But more importantly, the healing I had started had become part of who I was. I had come full circle from the man I had been, a man lost in a toxic relationship, back to someone who knew his worth, someone who understood that self-love was the key to everything. I knew that if I kept nurturing the love I had for myself and for Sam, I would continue to grow in ways I couldn't yet imagine. In the end, I realized that I didn't need to keep looking for answers in others. Everything I needed was already within me. The love I had for Sam, the music I made, the words I wrote, all of it was a reflection of the man I had become. I was no longer defined by my past. I was defined by who I chose to be today. And so, with every step forward, I knew the road ahead would be full of new challenges, but it would also be full of hope. Hope for Sam, for me, and for the future we were building together. Because in the end, it wasn't about the mistakes I had made, or the pain I had endured. It was about the love that I now knew I was capable of giving and the life I had the power to create. The journey was just beginning. A few years had passed since the day I had made the decision to change. Since then, life had unfolded in ways I never could have imagined when I was trapped in the darkness of the past. Time had a way of smoothing out the rough edges, giving me space to breathe and grow. My relationship with Sam had only strengthened. He was now a young teenager, wise beyond his years, and with an openness that made my heart swell with pride. We had settled into a new house, a small place on the outskirts of town, just far enough to escape the city noise, but close enough to keep everything we needed within reach. It was a new chapter for both of us, a fresh start. I still wrote every day, my thoughts pouring onto the pages like a river of memories and hopes. Sometimes I'd look back at the things I had written in the past and see how much I had evolved. The man I had been then, the one who doubted his worth, seemed so far away from the person I had become. I was proud of my progress. Emma and I had been together for over a year now, and though our relationship had grown more serious, it was grounded in something real. She understood me in ways no one else ever had. There was no rush, no pressure. It was simply us, enjoying the quiet moments and the occasional adventure. I had learned to cherish these moments, to appreciate the simple beauty of just being with someone who loved me for who I was, not who I was trying to be. One evening, as we sat in the living room after dinner, Sam came into the room with that familiar gleam in his eye. "Hey, Dad, do you remember the time we went to the beach and you couldn't stop making up stories about the sandcastle we built?" he asked, his voice full of laughter. I smiled. "Of course I do. I think we both had too much fun with that one." "You were the king, and I was your royal advisor," Sam said, continuing the story with a dramatic flair. Emma chuckled from her seat on the couch, and I could feel my heart swell with love for the life I had built. A life that was no longer defined by regrets, mistakes, or insecurities, but by the love we had for each other. Later that night, after Sam had gone to bed, I sat on the porch, the cool night air surrounding me. The stars above felt like a reminder of how far I had come, how much had changed, how much I had grown. It was then, in the quiet stillness, that I fully understood, healing wasn't about erasing the past. It wasn't about forgetting the pain or pretending it didn't happen. Healing was about accepting the past for what it was, and then choosing to move forward with grace, strength, and love. I had done that. I had built a life that was truly mine, one that was full of love, acceptance, and possibility. The person I was now was stronger, more whole, and more at peace than the person I had been all those years ago. And as I watched the night sky stretch above me, I knew that no matter what came next, I was ready. Because the most important lesson I had learned was that the journey was never about reaching a perfect destination, it was about embracing the journey itself, with all of its twists, turns, and moments of grace. In the end, I had found my peace. And for that, I was grateful. Thank you very much for watching. Please support me by subscribing, liking, and of course commenting.